Welcome to the Expansive CEO podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Chapman, founder of Expansive CEO and X Squared Wealth Planning. Buckle in as we explore how to create true prosperity and build a business and a life that expands beyond yourself and makes a dent in the universe. In today's episode, I get to interview Monica Tuck, and what I would love for you to pay attention to in your own body, in your own awareness as you're listening is how does your journey as an entrepreneur mirror what you're hearing from Monica? Where have you, worked with clients that you absolutely adore? And then, taken a little side journey into, maybe I should work with this type of client. Maybe I should work with this size of business. And, really let that experimentation guide you towards your greatest, most easily flowing impact with clients. And Monica's journey really has been just beautiful. And she's been in the marketing space for a long time. She has a ton of experience there. She's worked with a lot of different, brand new startups, scaling businesses, larger businesses, worked in a lot of different capacities. And what she has come home to is realizing from all of those different experiments, working with different kinds of clients, that's how she really figured out who it is that she truly loves to support. And so for your own business, as you're listening, as you're kind of paying attention to how you feel during this episode, what does that look like for you? Who is the person, who is the client that you can just pour out into? When I talk about niching, that is, to me, that is your strongest niche, is, that person who can receive from you so easily, that you can pour out your wisdom, your knowledge, your charisma, your passion, and that they can receive it from you. So I would love for you to check in with yourself, listen to this episode, and let me know. Let me know in the comments. Send me a message at hannah@expansiveceo.com. And just tell me, what does that mean to you? Who's the person that you love to serve, and how did you get there? So I hope you enjoy this episode, and here we go. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And I have, as always, all of my guests are super special, but this is someone who I love dearly and get to talk to every single week because we're in several different groups together. We work together in different ways. And this is Monica Tuck. She is a creative strategist and the co-founder of U Studio, where she helps startups and scaling business owners really accelerate their why through brand and content strategy. And Monica, it's such a beautiful place to start because I really want you to tell the audience who you are and what you do, but we're going to dive into your why a little bit through here as well, so people can really get to know your heart as well. So tell us, who are you and what do you do and why?
Yes. Well, thanks for having me. It's such a pleasure to be on here, just with listening to your past episodes and everything and the work that you do and the why behind what you do. So my name is Monica Tuck. I am the co-founder and creative strategist of U Studio. As Hannah has said, I do help startups and scaling business owners accelerate their why through brand and content strategy. I am the co-founder of our studio, U Studio, which is a boutique brand and creation studio here in Cincinnati. We can serve clients virtually anywhere. And really a big bulk of my niche and my specialty is really just working one-on-one with startups and scaling business owners and really bringing out their why strategy. And if a business is starting and someone's leaving a corporate job and ready to start as a thought leader in their space, or if someone is ready to refresh their brand and they're scaling, and maybe they never had that area and window in the beginning that they really leaned into a thorough strategy for what they do and really dove deep into their story. Actually, this past year I've been writing again, which is really, really, really fun.
Hmm.
That has been coming to the end of my strategy sessions. I have a package where it's a 4-week strategy package, 2 hours a week, for 4 weeks. And at the end of that, we have a really clearly aligned strategy where I'm identifying your customer profiles, their pain points, your value that you add to them, really leaning into what your brand values are, your service offerings, your process, your pricing, all these types of things that we're really leaning into with the strategy of really getting a clear line strategy. But my biggest favorite part of this is really the why behind it and the story
Hmm.
and the individual behind the brand. And really, when there's an impactful, non-transactional story, I feel like many of us kind of get lost in like the transactions of the everyday work and the money
Hmm.
transactions. But many times you'll see the most successful businesses if they really do have an impactful why behind it and a meaning behind it, and they're really trying to make an impact bigger than themselves in the world. So I've been writing some really awesome stories. I have a list of my own ideal customer personas that I've actually been identifying this past year, and it's just been amazing. So love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So that is definitely where I want to go with this, because as you are, you know, doing strategy with clients and, like, full disclosure, anyone who needs like marketing support, like I send all my clients to Monica, and the results are just amazing because you're diving into the why. And I don't I don't know that a lot of people do that the way that you do. So would you tell us a little bit more about, how, not necessarily like the, technical details of how you work with someone, but like what that feels like to you, what you're discovering when you're talking with someone, and like gleaning those stories out of them, that it's like, oh, there's your brand story. Like, how does that work? How can someone, listening, start to cultivate that for themselves, start to think about it, so that they can start to identify, what's special about you? What do you want to say in the world, in your marketing?
Well, I feel like for the most part, when people come to me, everyone is pretty scattered in their thoughts. But yet there's still this passion for what someone maybe it's this like transformation in their lives. Like it could be someone leaving a job that they've been in. I mean, it's like a wedding, a marriage, a death. Like when you're like really like, I am going to start this business for myself.
Hmm.
Um, and typically there is a reason. There is an in-depth reason and why behind why they're doing this. There could be many different scenarios. There could be the I like to say the woman. I'm a woman. I tend to work with a lot of women that has suffered from many different things, from not being valued in her workplace. There could be a woman who is overcoming motherhood and needing to create a business around that's structured around her everyday life with her children. It could be a woman who has felt not independent and needed to establish some independence for herself, and really stepping into the zone of truly being able to live in her authentic brand. And I think all of us from like birth, we've been like building up this brand. And it's a matter of like, where do we start? Where did our brand start? And
Hmm.
where do we begin with telling our story? It's like, where do I fully disclose? Where do I leave out? I even, full disclosure of myself, I deal with this myself,
Hmm.
just being so close to myself. So I really try to slowly walk someone through their story and feel comfortable. And I have imposter syndrome really bad. A lot of people wouldn't think that about me, but I really have a bad problem with it. And it's really, really unbelievable to like have someone be vulnerable to tell you their whole life story and to tell
Hmm.
you where they are. And there's a lot of happiness and vulnerability and just everything about why they're doing this for themselves that they're embarrassed to outwardly tell people. And
Mm.
I feel like by the end of this, we get it so comfortable that, like, to overcome the hurdle of not feeling embarrassed to put yourself out there, that if you sit in this and nobody knows about it, like, what impact are you going to make? So
Yeah.
for me, it's simply getting that out in words, typically the strategy and outlining. And I left out the mission and vision and all statement and all that kind of stuff too. I didn't put that section in there, but it's just leaning into all of that, the mission, the vision, the brand values, the why, all of this that really builds out to a fabulous, can be outlined. Typically what I'm doing is moving it through a site back for a website and wordsmithing their tagline and naming their business, all these things that come of it. And then we work beautifully with my right hand man, Pamela, who can do fabulous design work. So it's just really taking the story and taking the words, taking the impact, and then being able to design it beautifully. And for that individual to feel proud and to not be
Mhm.
scared to share her story. So
Yeah.
that's really the story behind it. And it's really
Yeah.
my own journey too. It's funny. I started the brand Unbridled Studio as my story. And
Yeah, that's where
that
I was
was,
gonna that's where I
yeah.
was gonna
So
go
I
next
started
'cause
my brand. My personal brand was my own personal story.
yeah.
And I started my brand out of really an experience with, there was a cross sector of things. I was just becoming a mother. I had experience with a creative agency. I realized that I could do that job pretty well. And so I, in my stage of motherhood, I was at like kind of this cross with, I really need to figure out a life and a brand to work my life around my family. And then the creative agency world fell into it. And then I was like, and I can actually do this and have a business of my own and do it really well. So I started here in my home. I live in Wyoming, Ohio. We have 130 women owned businesses here. I started branding a list of women owned businesses, mothers leaving the workforce, having children, all of that back then. And it was me branding myself to help others brand themselves then. And from then until now, I do that through brand and content for the scaling business owners, because it kind of levels up a little bit out of the brand. If you have the branding, your home base in order with your website and your logo and your name and your story and all this, then it's also your content and how you're laying that through your content. So I also have another package where I really help just keep that story going for them and exercising it through their social media, blogs, newsletters, and things of that nature too.
Yeah, so let's go back through, when you started
Mhm.
Unbridled, it was Unbridled Studio,
At that time, and
at
now
that
we're
time,
used,
right?
yeah, we're refreshed now.
Yeah, but then what I love, the story that I love to hear you tell is, how you started in that space, right? Like in working with um entrepreneurs, like really small solopreneurs who were growing and branding and needed to tell their story. And along the way, you started working with kind of bigger companies or like gunning for bigger companies
Yeah,
that,
and
yeah.
I
And
actually didn't, it's okay, so I was working by myself, and I was working with, women-owned businesses. At that time, it was all startup packages. That was basically, I was starting businesses up. And I was working one-on-one with the clients, and it was all wonderful, like living in my zone. Well, I then got, so when I think just as time was going on, word was getting out to people I knew, and people I knew who worked in other companies and were like marketing directors, marketing managers, all these kind of things. Pamela, she was a marketing manager at a
okay.
company, and she's like, I could use you and help me. So she's my friend, and I'm like, oh sure. And I was helping her. And then she was like, I really would love to leave my job. And so I was like, well, you can 100% leave your job. And I was like, and you can 100% work with me because you obtain skills I don't have. You can make, really balance out the business even more than it is now. So, so I actually coached her out of leaving a
Wow.
regular 9 to 5, branding herself. And then I said, but if I'm going to do this, I don't really think I want this brand to be about me anymore. I was like, the brand was really never about me. It was about others, but I do feel like I branded myself because of my awakening of myself. And so then that's when her and I really went into brand refresh discussions of how could we make this a more I wanted us to be a collaborative studio working collaboratively with creatives and collaboratively with other small business owners
Mhm.
or startups. So we started the journey and she joined forces. And then shortly after we rebranded, we were like, maybe we should just start going around all around town and like get a pitch deck together. And we were walking into like P&G, Gold Star Chili, Cow Brands, second,
These are
third,
humongous companies just
second
for
and
people
third,
listening.
yes, second and third interviews at Gold Star Chili, getting picked up in small projects for P&G and working with a team, a project at Gold Star Chili. And then I started doing this and I'm like, whoa, like, no. This is not like, I don't fit in this space. One, I so I never have had a corporate job in my life. I've never worked a corporate 9 to 5 office job. And I'm like, how can I even help these people? Like, I don't know anything about corporate anything. Like, I literally feel as I am not of any value, not saying anything bad, but I'm like, I am like a third generation entrepreneur. My grandpa had a business, my dad has a business, and like I've always had I had a small business in my 20s.
Mhm.
And another like I had since I was 23. Like that's all I've always known to do all the things like marketing, accounting, finance, everything, and the services, everything. I never really knew what it was to be in that space. I really started to realize that real fast. I was like, what did I even think?
Mm.
Like I could help a corporation. Like I'm that is not my space. So I started slowly backing out of that. And then shortly after, where I live, the most fabulous mentor and beautiful person I ever met, Lynn Tetley, she was the city manager in the community I lived in which I was overseeing a lot of the startup businesses in. And I had a really big passion for our small businesses in our community. She's like, would you consider overseeing our marketing for the city as a project base with there's a hole and I need some help. And I was like,
Mm.
sure. So then I started with her and it was beautiful because it leaned into moving into COVID and I
Mm.
actually got to kind of morph the position doing a lot of stuff for the businesses in Wyoming and small businesses. Um, and I actually just the other day, a friend of mine, Patty at Patina, was like, if it wasn't for you during COVID, my business would have failed. Like I never
Mm.
even realized that like I made that impact during COVID because I was
Wow.
doing marketing programs for the small businesses, gift card, like these campaigns to really keep our small businesses going, which was a great thing for me. But then I then started to realize like being in this big organization, which is local government, it's a big organizational structure again. And I'm
Yeah.
like something, even though I'm helping the business, I can't do enough. Like I
Yeah.
can't do enough because there's still going to be some type of bureaucracy, some type of red to do the impact I want to make in the world with small businesses. So I was like, well, and so then after COVID, I worked my ass off all of COVID there, like
Yeah.
crazily worked all of COVID. I was not even, I was either at the office there. I then resigned from that position because it just got to be to where I couldn't really do as much for the small businesses as I once wanted to. So I
Mhm.
took a summer sabbatical. And then I had another friend approach me, Annalise Vance, and she was having a contract with a nonprofit charter school uh, uh, in south side of Chicago, a network out south side of Chicago and here in Cincinnati. And she's like, I really think that you could help me lead the marketing for this charter school network. I was like, well, I love their mission. They're helping at-risk youth in lower income communities. Like I can make an impact there. I will consider that. So then I got into that again. And then I'm the mission was there, the impact was there, but again, the large organizational structure of
Mm.
educational structure was like a red tape in the road. And it was like, I can't really make the impact I'd want to make because it's like a huge like organization animal. So at the tail end of that, a little over, well, now it's been about a year ago when I was in the middle of all of that, I started really thinking like, Monica, what are you doing? What mistakes are you making here? There's like a pattern. Like
Mm.
large organizational groups and structures, you always like I retract from like real quick.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like the whole time I felt like an introverted like hermit, and like I was not
How
myself.
weird. Yeah. It's not
Very
you at
weird,
all.
very odd. No, I'm telling you. So I was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? So then I had, out of that, I had a friend at the same time, Jackie Barnes Design. She had me start, I was doing one small business, one larger organization. And the small business the whole time I was like, this is it, this is it, this is
Mhm.
it. And then so when I finally decided, the last organization I was with, when I decided, I just can't be of service here because I'm not making an impact. I really started to realize that if I took it back, my reins back again, and went back to the origination of my business, it was all about helping the small business owner and
Mhm.
startups and scaling small business owners that were startups that are now scaling. And like, am I of service to that person? Because at the end of the day, like I am that person.
Yeah.
Like I get every 120% of psychology of that to know the ins and outs of it and what my specialty is and what my niche is that can be of service in that space. Just like you and what you do in your space with financial wealth coaching and planning. It's like you have that little um, tab you can shut down someone's brain.
Yeah.
Like I have the marketing tab I can shut down. And it's not only that, it's just like there's so much impact an individual can actually make when like there's not all that big red tape bureaucracy in the middle of
Mhm.
things. And I just feel like the more that I can coach and guide others to become these individuals, to continue being those individuals, be in a community, and for me to continue to be able to tell their stories and for them to make an impact in whatever case it is. That's like, I never retract back. I never feel like a hermit. We're on
Mhm.
our networking organization together. I'm more verbal and vocal than I probably should. Some people might be like, this girl, you're not my cup of tea. But at this point, I'm like, you know what? I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and I'm cool with that. And the fact
Mhm.
that I get to start a business and I get to be like 100% myself every day of my life. I can say what I want, do what I want, dress how I want, wear a little makeup than I usually wear today for the camera, but it's
Right. Me
just,
too.
yeah, it's just, it's a beautiful place to be in. And when you're surrounded by others that are your people, your tribe, your community, and you can continue building up the others that are their people, that are your people tribe. It's like you all attract each other like magnets. And
Yeah.
it's just funny how the work starts flowing. And it's not, I'm not a hermit. I'm not a black sheep. I'm not an outcast in within a big organization. I was like this literally since I was in school when I was younger. Like I always felt like I was just not fitting in. Like, and I always felt like I wanted to do something a little bit outside the norm. And it's like at this point, I'm like anybody who is long to ride a crazy train, small business, have a Y impact, don't be transactional. It's just it's my human, and it's like the person that I work with and the impact I'm trying to make. And I feel like the more that I can guide others, because a lot of the time I'm hand holding and being a coach to them too, because it's like this is
Mhm.
a big, huge step. Um, but it's like, and then also the scaling business owners, like I'm just so exhausted. I'm doing everything. I don't even know how to keep up anymore. Like, can you help me do my strategy for all this? And like, people, can you connect me to everyone who can do stuff for me and execute like whatever level
Yep.
they need. Some people are at it could be strategy, it could be execution, but it's just like to be able to like calm that person down and like be able to be a part of a team of a small business
Mhm.
owner. To me, I could never, there's no greater impact I could ever make than working with
Mm.
individuals.
Yeah.
That's a
So,
lot of words, but
oh no, it's so beautiful. Like, and okay, so I'm going to open up a couple of things that you talked about that I think really, really resonate strongly for a lot of people is this feeling of, um, you mentioned imposter syndrome before, right? And mentioned like not fitting in different places and consistently coming back, like putting yourself in that place of, okay, this is a good opportunity with a bigger organization, or I should, or this, or, like those aspects but that imposter syndrome would flare up. And it's so
Yes,
interesting. It's so
that's funny.
interesting.
I was an
Yeah.
imposter and all of that all the time. Like
Right. And
everywhere I was, I felt like an imposter. And not saying today I don't feel like I'm an imposter. Like putting this podcast up after we're done with it, every time I feel like an imposter. Like I was just on my first not that long ago. Like when it comes to putting myself out there, but the more I know that I start putting myself out there, the more I know others can feel comfortable about putting themselves out there. And the more I hope that people can listen to my story and be impacted and be like, it's time for me to not feel like I'm living in this isolated world anymore. Like I
yeah.
can't be independent, all these things. But anyways, keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that actually that leads into this other space of, where you were feeling like, yeah, this is not, you feel it, right? Like it was very clear to you because you had these other experiences of, working with Jackie and like, oh, I'm back in, with a small business where it's like, we're co-creating something really dynamic, really easily, where you feel like you're just pouring out, right? Where you can be yourself and just pour out uh, all of your charm and your excitement and your charisma. Like you light up, and it's so obvious. And so when other, especially small business owners, are in that same spot, when they're like feeling, ugh, like this feels heavy, it doesn't feel good, I feel like I feel like I'm spinning my wheels, or I don't feel like I'm like providing enough value. That is a it's a clue. It's like, and it's not even like a small clue. It's like a giant boulder of a clue in the path that like, hey, let's look at this. Let's look at this. And where do you feel good? Where do you like light up, where you can just, oh, here's everything. I can give you everything and you can receive it fully from me. And for you, that is the small startup or scaling business owners, right? And not, what's interesting, um, I haven't come across, and I meet a lot of people, right? I haven't come across a lot of people that do the full package, especially for a startup or someone who has like started a business and they're doing stuff, but they've never had like actual branding or marketing. They've just been like
Uh-huh.
figuring it out on their own, right? That's that scaling side. I really haven't met very many people who do what you do the way you do it.
Good
And
to know.
right, like that's like you're in a special spot. And so it's so interesting to me that when you like flipped that switch, right? When you let go of that charter school that you didn't feel, that was like, it was a big monthly retainer, right? But it was like, okay, this is not the direction I want to go. I want to lean fully over here. And then what happened? I want you to tell the story because it was a little bit bananas for a while, right? But now it's like,
Yeah. So last spring was when I first got introduced to our networking organization through Jessica Rhodes and Sarah Dallin, who I've known for Sarah for quite some time now. And in the past, I mean, I was putting some stuff out there, and I was doing some stuff when I started Unbridled Studio marketing myself. But at that time, again, everything I put out there, I always was like, oh my gosh, like hide my face. Like, I got to do this though. And at that time, when I did start sharing what I was doing, then I would start attracting. When I called upon what I wanted, I would start attracting it.
mhm.
Um, I don't know why I had to go through the journey of hills and valleys, ripping back around,
We all do.
check into every Fortune 500 company in town. I don't know why I wanted to do that. I don't know why I did that, but I actually feel like I needed to do that.
Mhm.
I feel like again, everybody starts out their business and they're like, "Oh, this is it. This is what." When I'm starting it too, I think that also goes to show that I can also tell others like things may shift and change. Things may blossom in a different way than you had anticipated. You may need to actually learn the things, what to do, what not to do, who your clients are, who they aren't. If you might need some lessons learned. And I feel like now the fact that I did go through that, it just opens up that permission to other people to be able to shift and turn.
Mhm.
When I finally have landed back to where I am now last spring, I was starting to get super imposter syndrome because I strayed off my original mission. I was like, I wasn't even doing any of that for a little while. I'm like, well, I'm a chaotic mess and everywhere, and everyone thinks I'm a mess now. So I'm not on the original path that I was originally on with my ideal clients that I serve. So last year, I was like, you know what? I just need to just get with a group of people, start talking about what I'm doing, get back on my right path. And honestly, with your leadership of being president of our local Cincinnati Success Champions Network chapter, and leaning into our group, that I have felt like I can like be vulnerable, um,
Mhm.
also not be by myself, and I can start actually practicing like talking about what I'm doing with the group. You guys have heard since I started in there. But then then I started getting back out, picking up Ideal. But then I also was like, I'm going to refine my systems and processes this time.
Yeah. Hmm.
I didn't do that last time. Behind the scenes, no one really ever really realized like I didn't have a lot of systems and processes in place like for the business and for me and for our team and all of that. So when I started speaking to my ideal clients, which SEN, all small business owners,
Right.
and noting not just SEN, but I need to start figuring out where are more people I want to just talk to, just educate like what I'm doing and get to know other people, what they're doing, and can make connections with and start talking, being with my people again.
Yeah.
It's really taken being with my people again that I can, it's okay if I am learning and growing. We're all learning and growing. And then I started really the power of the virtual coffee. That all opened up. And taking a niche and then putting a 30-minute conversation with your whole people out there everywhere just to conversate, not like you have to buy. I don't, not everybody has to buy from me, but I just want to get to know people. And like, I need to get back out of
Yeah.
this little trail I've been on and just start talking to more people who are like me. And it's just blossomed. My sales have tripled, quadrupled, like just from when, like from the time being, I was still working on the charter school and thinking of picking up the small businesses. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to turn that off, the big organization, and I'm going to let it fill up with everything I need. And as soon as I did that,
Mhm.
which was November 1st, and it's now tomorrow, it's tomorrow the 1st? Yeah, I think
Tomorrow's the 31st,
tomorrow's
right?
31st.
Oh
We're
yeah.
almost in February. But December, 2 full months, or no, November, December, January, 3 full months, I have gained every ounce of my income back and more,
Mm.
by living in my ideal world with my ideal clients and putting myself in community with those that I can serve and they serve me. And it's like a mutual beneficial relationship.
Mhm.
And we all get each other. And we can be honest with one another, which is really freaking cool. Like it's just a really fabulous place to be in.
Yeah. And the thing I wanted to tease apart there too, and you just said it, and it's so amazing because this is how it works. Um, just as a universal law or whatever you want to, call it, that when we let go of what's not for us, right?
Yes.
That was a big leap of faith. Like you had to trust that, hey, I know my ideal clients are here for me. And you let it go, let go of that piece and just opened up the possibility. Those you weren't going to have time. You weren't going to have the capacity mentally, emotionally,
No.
physically, to take on those clients if you held on tight to that other piece
I
that
mean,
wasn't right for you.
and I want to be very clear that you also have to hold back on like I've been driving around like a paid off car for a while now. Like I've scaled back every ounce of scaling back that I could scale back financially. Because
Mhm.
I feel like sometimes feel like, how am I going to do this? But if you really look at like what your paychecks are paying and like what you really need to be spending money on, like if you scale it back as low and as far back as you can on that side of things too, that's when you go for these readjustments.
Mm.
Because at first someone's going to start and they're going to not they're going to have to work a job first to side hustle it to get into this.
Right.
But it's like you have to scale back in all the spending areas. I mean, you the first one to say these kind of things, but like I also have had to realize that to know that like my wealth is not of the things. Like, and if I'm going to make an impact the next 20, 25 years of my life doing work, like it's not going to be the things. Like it's going to be the impact I'm putting out in the world. And I do truly believe now that like the rate things are going, like I think I can have abundant wealth for my family, for my kids,
Mhm.
for everything, experiences, like all these things. But I do feel like too, like knowing that like in this time that I had to really, really think about that and like
Mhm.
what money and understanding that you have helped me understand that too and the value of it. And it's not the things. It's really helped
Yeah.
out a lot.
Yeah. And that too, to kind of expand on that a little bit, it's not necessarily having to, cut everything. Right. And that's not necessarily how I teach either. It's really about alignment, and it's about what actually matters the most to you. Right. And so,
Makes you feel good. Like what makes you
right.
feel good.
Exactly. And so this, there are choices that we do make sometimes, right? And there are some, things that like, yeah, if you're working a corporate job, and so this speaks straight to the people who you're talking about who are like launching businesses, right? Which is perfect. Yeah. If you're making 150 or $200,000 a year in your corporate job, sometimes that does feel really scary to leap, and that will keep people stuck for a long time, those golden handcuffs, because they're like, well, I need to replace my salary or it's not going to be okay. Like, well, let's look at that. What actually matters to you? What of what you're spending is because you hate your job,
I
right? Like,
know.
really, I mean, truly, we do a lot of things with our money because we're like trying to make up for, right, the things that don't feel good when we're in a job that is just misaligned, that doesn't feel good. And so when we start to like make conscious choices about what we actually want to experience and what we want to create in the world, that can then help us um, reevaluate. Right. And so, like you said, maybe it is, hey, you know what? My car is about paid off. That's fine. I can keep driving that car rather than get a brand new one right away so that I can put that money towards building a business.
Yeah,
Right.
I
Or
have this.
all of that. That's a great example.
I mean, looping you in the mix with this too, with the systems and processes, just too with money and how like also redefining how I look at the value of my service offerings and breaking those down to hours. I mean, there's also that too. I mean, there's passion,
Yeah.
and it's why and passion first. Don't get me wrong. But then also, now that I've been able to streamline systems and processes and link my calendar to every hour on the calendar is linked to a cost association
Yeah.
when it comes to services and how to do all that too. That has just been leaps and bounds too when I kind of and if you think about, okay, if I need to make $150,000, how many packages do I need to sell per month this year? Like those kind of things. Like how many people do I need to serve this year? And I think when you start doing that, I mean, really, the money can be endless for what you want to do once you
Right.
kind of start figuring that out. And you're going to gain that money back quickly and more once you start really narrowing those down. So I do think not only behind it with everything, it's also with the processes to be sustainable too as a business and to not
Mhm.
be stressed out and want to quit. Because
Right.
you also too, I mean, I say these things of passion, I say it in like I work with my ideal people, but yes, I also have had to figure out systems and processes and money alignment and how to make all that work so that I can have the income I need, all those kind of things.
Right. Yeah. I love that though. I love that that aspect of this is your why, and we build from that, and then the how, right? Here are
Yes.
the pieces that you can bring around you, because even just what you do, right, is taking something off of someone's plate, right? And so a
Yeah.
lot of what we do as business owners, I take that financial stress off of people's minds, right, and help really hone all of those business offers, and how are you creating income, and how are you building your personal wealth, and what's the right balance for that. And It just really, it is another aspect of how do we create our own team. When we are entrepreneurs and visionary business owners, we have to create our own team. And you
Oh
spoke to
yeah.
that a little bit too, right? And so it's like, how do we curate the people that are around us so that we can
Bring
bring the right team around us?
bring the idea, yeah, not only on who you work with, but also, yeah, who is on your team, ideal people you want to surround yourself with every day to build each other up and all that. It makes such a big difference. Yeah, because if that's also out of jive, that gets to be a little yeah, it's all of that.
So, with that, if someone wants to understand how to have you on their team, what's the best way for someone to find you and reach out to you?
So the best ways of getting in touch with me are my LinkedIn page. I'm really active on there. Monica Tuck. You can find me on LinkedIn. Um, I have a personal Facebook page, Monica Tuck. You can find me there personally. And then my business, you can find the web. Our handle is Experience U Studio. The word Experience U Studio. Experienceustudio.com. The website, you can look all there. And also Experience U Studio. You can find that on LinkedIn business page, Facebook business, and Instagram.
Beautiful. Well, Monica, thank you so much for sharing your story and being so open and vulnerable yourself today so that others can see that in their own story, right? Just like you said, when you step forward and you do it first, you pave the way for other people to say, hey, I can do that too. So thank you. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here with me.
Well, thank you for being a part of my team and community.
Absolutely. I love it. That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening, and be sure to like and subscribe. And again, if anything resonated with you from this episode, I would love to hear from you. Email me at Hannah, HANNAH, at expansiveceo.com and tell me about it. And if you're ready for your greatest expansion, you can find ways to work with me at expansiveceo.com and at x2wealthplanning.com. That's X, the numeral 2, wealthplanning.com. So until next time, remember that there is enough. You are enough. And your birthright in this lifetime is to be expansive.